WhatsApp is on fire these days. Another forward popped up a couple of days ago, which was a Tamil message. So I would rather read the translation of it. Right. It says, they say that the level of oxygen in our body must be 98 to 100 and that you need oxygen support if it drops below 43. There is a measurement called ORAC, or oxygen radical absorption capacity. We should consume foods high in oxygen level according to this scale. It says, cloves have 314,446 ORAC score, cinnamon 267,537, turmeric 102,700, cumin 76,800, holy basil 67,553, and ginger 28,811. Okay, is there a shortcut to incorporate these into our diet? Here's a recipe. Please write it down and follow it. 100 grams of carom seeds, 50 grams of fennel seeds, 5 grams of cloves, 5 grams of cinnamon, 10 grams of dry ginger, and 10 grams of cardamom. Dry roast these ingredients, powder them, and store them in a glass container. Adding 1 teaspoon per 2 cups of your morning and evening tea would make your regular tea masala tea. The rate of spread of COVID-19 is increasing. The virus spreads to the lungs, reduces its oxygen absorption capacity, and kills. Please share this with your friends and family. Instead of spending a lot of money in an instant for the treatment, if we followed the recipe above, which uses substances that we use on a regular basis, our bodies will get the necessary oxygen in our morning tea. Why not follow prevention is better than cure? This message is for awareness. Well, let me start by saying that most health tips on WhatsApp like this are perhaps well intended, but ORAC actually stands for oxygen radical absorbance capacity, not absorption, and this has nothing to do with how much oxygen our bodies can absorb. The premise of this forward is like linking irony to ironing because both the words begin with iron. Okay, if ORAC is not about oxygen absorption capacity of our body, then what is it? Before we begin to understand this, we must know what metabolism, oxidation, and free radicals are. Metabolism is basically a process by which our body sustains life. In simple terms, our body converts sugar and fat molecules into energy, it converts food to fundamental blocks like the nucleic acid, and throws away wastes generated from such processes. Chemical processes combine reactants to make products. Some reactions produce byproducts as well. Free radicals are, in simple terms, short-lived byproducts. They are short-lived because they're unstable. In oversimplified terms, these free radicals could be incomplete atoms or molecules, which are looking for electrons to become stable. Now, free radicals could be of different types. The most common ones in human beings are oxygen free radicals. These free radicals remain free for a fraction of a second, but their sheer number makes them very dangerous. When looking for other atoms or molecules to bind with, they might end up altering our DNA, which, could lead to mutation or cell damage. Now, don't think of mutation as something that, you completely become you gain a superpower or something like that. This is a lot different. This is life, not sci-fi movie. A body, by design, can handle free radicals using its own enzyme systems. These are our own antioxidants. These natural antioxidants that our body creates balances the oxidant-free radicals. Wait. What does this have to do with oxygen? This is where it gets interesting. In chemistry, we have oxidation reactions and reduction reactions. Oxidation reactions involve loss of electrons, while reduction reactions involve gain of electrons. You see how this is going farther and farther away from coronavirus, but hang in there. In other words, an oxidant is a chemical molecule that steals an electron, leading to an oxidation reaction. In chemistry, we call this process an increase in the oxidation state, or gaining of oxygen. For example, rusting of iron is an oxidation reaction, and spraying WD-40 on rusted iron is a reduction reaction. Now, coming back to free radicals, when the free radicals outnumber the antioxidants in our body goes into a state of oxidative stress. In this state, you have a much higher probability of cell damage, and at times this leads to a certain types of cancers. Wait, I know I said cancer, but let us not conclude anything just yet. We're not done. Right, so we need antioxidants in our body to balance out the free radicals. This is where antioxidant-rich foods come into the picture. To measure the antioxidant capacity of foods, scientists developed a system of finding out the in vitro, or in the glass, or in other words, in the lab, antioxidant activity of a given food item. The measure of this activity is oxygen radical absorbance capacity. In the lab, they challenge a material that's vulnerable to oxidation in the presence of a specific food item with an oxidizing agent, and see how well the food item resists oxidation of the vulnerable substance. As a simple example, let us say that you kept a thin little sheet of iron in a test tube and placed some cloves and blew in steam mixed with atmospheric air. You then measured how well the cloves resisted the oxidation of the iron sheet. Of course, this is an oversimplified experiment. The actual experiment could be much more elaborate and use a more sophisticated method. One important point to remember, though, is that this is a lab test. It does not necessarily translate directly to the oxidant activity in the body or in vivo. Measuring their in vivo activity is not possible with the current technology, which was the reason the scientists developed the in vitro system of measurement. Now, the site Superfoodly keeps an updated list of these food items with their respective ORAC values. Also, last I checked, this scores for 100 grams of these substances, which means you would need to convert these values to your typical serving to know the score of that particular ingredient of that amount that goes into your body. Now, when you convert the ORAC values of the quantity of these items as mentioned in the recipe, as per the data on Superfoodly, as on the date of recording this, this is what you get. Carom seeds is not available. Fennel seeds is not available. Cloves, the ORAC score is 290,283. Cinnamon, it is 131,420. Dry ginger is 39,041. And cardamom is 2,764. When you combine all of these ORAC values for 5 grams of cloves, 5 grams of cinnamon, 10 grams of ginger, and 10 grams of cardamom, this gives us 25,265.65 per 180 grams of this powder. Assuming that roasting of these do not vaporize the antioxidants present in the aromatic compounds of these spices, and going by that we would use 5 grams of these per day, the ORAC score of the amount of this powder per day would be 701.824. That is almost the same as 100 grams of raw carrots or 50 grams of whole grain bread. Ironically, these foods absorb off oxygen-free radicals to prevent oxidation, while the primary purpose of our lungs is to oxidize the hemoglobin in our blood. Am I saying that taking in antioxidant-rich foods will reduce our body's capacity to oxidize blood? No. I'm saying that the two processes are not related in that way at all. The antioxidant properties of these spices have nothing to do with our blood's ability to absorb oxygen. And the message says our body will get the necessary oxygen in tea. No, we do not get our oxygen supply from tea, we get our oxygen supply by breathing air. A healthy level of hemoglobin in the blood will ensure availability of oxygen for cell activity. Cleaner lungs will ensure availability of larger surface areas to aid the transfer of oxygen to our blood cells. Of course, another WhatsApp forward to vacuum clean lungs will not surprise me, but you're falling for it will. Because the fact that you're listening to this means that you're smarter than that. The lungs of a person hit by COVID may get inflamed because of the infection that and the body's reaction to it. This could impair the air sac's ability to transfer the oxygen to the blood, or some parts of the lungs might get filled with fluid which will block the air from entering the air sacs, which again will impair the ability of the body to absorb oxygen. These and other factors lead to a drop in the oxygen saturation in the blood. Eating antioxidant-rich foods do not help by absorbing oxygen as a proxy. That is not how the human body works. Also, notice how the forward conveniently forgets to add the percentage sign to 98 and 100 and builds the narrative that taking in spices with 6-digit ORAC values will fulfill our body's oxygen needs, which is merely 98 to 100. Oxygen cylinder in powdered form. No. Flawed calculation and logic. Am I saying that these spices will not help? No. Please make this mixture if you like, add it to your tea and enjoy it by all means. But do not let this message lead to complacence. Following COVID appropriate behavior, keeping an eye on the symptoms and consulting with a doctor when you feel ill will increase your chances of survival. Don't rely plainly on such shortcuts. Take care.